born, lived, dies. Hello fellow Janeites, on the day that this video goes up, July 18th, 2024, marks the 207th anniversary of Jane Austen's death. So, in commemoration, I have assembled a very brief biography of her life. Jane Austen was born on December 16, 1795 at the Steventon Rectory. Her father, George Austen, was a clergyman, and he also ran a small boarding school out of his home. Jane Austen was the 7th of 8 children and the 2nd of 2 daughters. Although Austen was close with all her siblings, she was particularly close to her only sister Cassandra, and neither of them ever married. Jane Austen was encouraged to read from an early age, having access to her father's somewhat substantial library. Additionally, she began her literary endeavors at Steventon. She wrote brief home theatricals for the family, as well as these farcical shorter stories, which are now all collectively known as her juvenilia. In 1801, Jane Austen's father left his living at Steventon and moved his family to Bath. The 5 years that Austen lived in Bath are often referred to as her unproductive years because we have limited evidence of her doing much writing during her time there. I, however, personally prefer the interpretation that Austen was busy revising her earlier work, as is evidenced by her selling a manuscript called Susan, which is believed to be an early version of Northanger Abbey, to a publisher in 1803, so when she was living in Bath. That publisher ultimately never published it, and Austen bought back the copyright some years later. In 1802, it is believed that Austen was, in all probability, proposed to by the brother of some friends that she was visiting at the time, Harris Bigwither. So, it is most likely that Austen accepted the proposal in the evening due to practical reasons, and then rescinded that acceptance in the morning as she realized that it would be unfair to marry him even though she did not have romantic feelings towards him. In 1805, Jane Austen's father dies, which leaves Jane, Cassandra, and their mother largely dependent on their other relations, much like the Bennet girls fear. They live in Bath for about 1 more year and move around the city a few times in quest of an economical situation. In 1806, the Austen ladies leave Bath and visit around with different relations and friends for a few years before being offered a more permanent home by their brother and son, Edward Austen Knight. Edward Knight, formerly Austen, was the 3rd of the Austen sons. He was adopted by wealthy family friends, the Knights, who made him their heir, prompting him to pull a Frank Churchill and change his last name. One of the properties that Edward inherited from the Knights was an estate called Chawton. On this estate was Chawton Cottage, which in 1809 he offered to his mother and sisters for their use as long as they needed it. It is while living at Chawton that the 4 novels that appeared in print during Austen's lifetime were published. Sense and Sensibility in 1811, Pride and Prejudice in 1813, Mansfield Park in 1814, and Emma in 1815. She published her books anonymously, But through the boasting of a loving brother, as well as other tittle-tattle, who she was well known enough that the Prince Regent's librarian was able to contact her. Also while living at Chawton, she worked on revising Northanger Abbey and writing Persuasion, both of which were published after her death. Jane Austen's health deteriorated in the final years of her life, and in May of 1817 she moved to Winchester to be close to a prominent surgeon. On July 18th, 1817, Jane Austen passed away, leaving behind grieving family and an unfinished novel. We are not quite sure what Austen died of, and as the Austen family descendants have, quite correctly in my opinion, forbidden the digging up of her remains to gather evidence from them, it shall remain speculation. Jane Austen left behind a literary legacy that has made her one of the most loved writers in the English language, placed her at the helm of a huge fan base, and secured her place within academia. And after more than 200 years, her charm has not faded. I hope you have learned something, and until next time, run mad as often as you choose, but do not faint.